Evening world, as opposed to morning world. This is my Sunday sermon for Sunday the 14th of June 2020. Now I'm recording this on the evening of Saturday the 13th, but as I record it's already Sunday in New Zealand and Australia and Singapore and Hong Kong and China, and by the time I turn this live it's going to be Sunday in India and the Middle East and probably Eastern Europe, so it's Sunday in many places in the world. Now, this is a look at what's going on, because it seems to me that over the last couple of years, over the last 2 or 3 years, people are sending me videos I did in 2018, 2017, looking forward to 2020, where I'm going, oh, it's going to be a real crazy time. And now here we are. Now, because we're all in it, and because we're all dancing with what's going on, all of us are living day by day, and we're coping. But if we go back to the way our lives were a year ago, if 1 year ago anyone had said to us that the majority of the world would have spent 3 months in lockdown, and that the world was going to be the way it is now, we'd have looked at them and said, no, that can't happen, that's not going to happen. And here we are. Now, earlier this year, when I did my start of the year forecasts, I said that the stuff that's coming up in the second quarter of the year, March, April, May, was just going to be the kind of forerunner of what's really coming up. With the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, Saturn-Jupiter-Pluto conjunction in January, February, March, that was the first wave, and that really established the virus big time, not just in China but throughout the world. In this last week or two, we've had so many Neptunian contacts. We've had Mars conjunct Neptune. We've had the Moon conjunct Mars and Neptune in the last, 24 hours. We've had the Sun square Mars and Neptune over this last week. We've had Mercury square Mars and Neptune over this last week and a half. It's been a very Neptunian time. Neptune, of course, is the most common astrological symbol for things like viruses. I mean, it deals with spirituality and art and film and photography, but it's also common in illusion, addiction, viruses and things like this. As I speak, the cases of coronavirus are going up by the thousands, plural, in America, Mexico, Brazil, even though the economies are opening. There's been new clusters opening up in Beijing. Australia and New Zealand seem to be clearing. Europe is still getting more cases, although the numbers are coming down. Yet all over the world it seems that economies are opening, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but it's a temporary phase. I remember earlier in the year saying, look, when this is all happening, come the summer, it will try and go back to normal, and we'll go back to what we think is normal for a few months, but it won't be. The old normal is gone. We cannot go back to being the way it was, even 6 months ago. The new normal is not the same as the old. So yes, for a few months now, economies are going to open again. Politicians are going to strut their stuff and say, yes, we've beaten the virus. Forget it. The virus is here to stay. And immunity, developing immunity through the maintenance of a healthy diet, healthy exercise, good nutrition, positive mental attitude, good, proper medical care, and I do not mean vaccines and chemical medicines, is probably the only way that we're going to develop that immunity. If you want to take chemical medicines and vaccines, fine, go ahead. I'll stick to my homeopathy, my herbalism and my good, healthy diet. We're heading into a Mercury retrograde. It starts in a few days' time. Also, in 2 weeks from now, Mars is going to move into Aries, where it will then stay until January. We're heading into what I consider to be the peak of extremism. As Mars moves into Aries, and as I've said a number of times before, I'm only working 3-day weeks at the moment and for the foreseeable future now. But during those 3 days, I speak to a lot of clients. And when I deal with perhaps sort of 15, 20 clients a week, week on week, you start to see patterns evolving in individual charts, which then you can reflect them into the world. And it's pretty damn clear to me that there's certain really big trigger points coming up, especially around the especially the 3rd week of August, when Mars in the sky will be squaring Jupiter and Saturn and Pluto. Closer to the time, I will be looking at who this is particularly hitting. But it's going to get messy out there. It's going to get messier. And I do anticipate the current level of angst to develop further. Now, as I speak today, I can't speak for other countries, but as I speak today in London, there's many gatherings of right-wing groups coming together to defend the nation's monuments against what they call the ravages of Black Lives Matter. And there's a lot of bottles and and missiles being thrown at police from these right-wing groups. The more left-centred groups, the Black Lives Matter group, are having a very peaceful demonstration in Hyde Park. There doesn't seem to be any arrests there. The right-wing groups are trying to get to Hyde Park for a confrontation as I speak. I don't know what will happen in the next 12 hours in London, even though there's supposed to be a lockdown and a curfew. But it does seem that left versus right, white versus black. Despite all the voices appealing for sanity and unity, and I'm not talking about the politicians who are just saying stay at home, it does seem that at the same time the extremes of left and right and white and black are becoming more and more obvious. And this is a year of extremism. Jupiter conjunct Pluto in Capricorn is not a gentle transit. It is really challenging the structures and the boundaries of the society that we live in. It is changing the way that we govern ourselves and that we are governed by political groups. And there is no clear sign yet as to how this will work out in the long term. If I project this forward past 5 or 6 months from now, I mean, over the next few months, we've got this Mercury retrograde coming up. Then we've got Mars standing still in Aries in mid-August, late August, early September. And then Mars will square all of those planets in Capricorn again on its retrograde phase during September, October, early November. And then it will move forward and pass all those points again around the end of December. Next year, we've got Saturn square Uranus as the big factor, which already is looking like Saturn is going to be trying to maintain the old structures and the old systems, and Uranus in Taurus is going to be trying to revolutionize the way we manage our economies and money. So it's a mixture of the old versus the new, the structure versus the new ideas. So there's going to be a lot of economic up and down next year, and I do think the world's heading into basically a depression, even a recession. Long term, of course, there's lots of hope, as there always is. Long term, when the Saturn-Neptune conjunction moves into Aries from Pisces around 2025, 2026, the new paradigms will be in place by then. And I do believe that by then we will be in a more Aquarian way. And I do not mean the Aquarian way that some people are representing it, which is quite robotic, militaristic, authoritarian. I mean more consensual, community orientated, with less boundaries, borders, and potentially greater say by individuals and collectives into what's happening for them. Because with this many people on planet, you can try and repress people as much as you like, but at the end of the day, until both individuals and collectives feel that they have a say in how their lives are run, there will never be peace and quiet on the planet. Only when individuals feel that they have responsibility over their lives, and then they are to blame if they don't work, then the world will be a different place. Maybe that's idealist. I'm sure a number of you by now will be going, you're just a left-wing libertarianism. I'm not. I'm a realist. The ideas of individuals having power over others in the nature of greed, profit, race, religion is systematically wrong. All lives matter. Human lives matter. And I look forward to the day when we will all see that, and I'm gambling on 2025, 2026. Bring it on. Catch you later, world. Bye.